So I probably say this every single year when we're on this stage, but this year, this is the most important research that Ophelia and I have presented at this summit. And that's because this is not just about a new industry sector, but it's about the places where all of us live. So we thought it would be fun to start by showing you where I live, and we're going to take a look at it through a wellness lens. So this is my house. It's in Pennsylvania, and it's in a pretty typical, nice American suburb that was built in the last several decades. This is my street. As you see, there's something missing. No sidewalks on this street. And so it's not a particularly nice place to take a walk or ride a bike. My street has some pretty nice mature trees, but a lot of the streets around mine don't even have any trees for shade. There is a park down one of those streets that has no sidewalks and no trees, but other than that, there are not really any places that I could walk or ride a bike to anyhow. So let me show you. Here's my house in the center. The stores I go to are in a commercial area up there, or I can go to the farmer's market, but I have to drive 8 miles that way on the highway. I'm fortunate that I work at home, but my husband's work, 30 miles north on another highway, so he has to drive to get there. My kids' school is actually pretty close to our house. As you can see, it's only about 1.5 miles away. But they could never actually walk or ride their bikes to school because it's on a road that looks like this. So, like all the other parents in my neighborhood, I get to spend a lot of time in my gas-guzzling minivan driving myself, my kids, and their friends around all of those places. If you're a senior citizen who lives in my neighborhood, you better hope that you have friends or family to drive you if you can't drive anymore, because there's no public transit in my neighborhood either. All the houses in my neighborhood have these attached garages. These are great for the wellness of our cars. But since everyone parks in the garage and they go in and out of their house through the garage, that means that you don't really run into your neighbors coming and going. I only run into my immediate next-door neighbors about 1 time per year. The rest of my neighbors I see in the mornings at my kids' bus stop, but really not outside of that. Because since there are no sidewalks and there are no community spaces or public spaces in my neighborhood, there's not really anything to get people to encourage them to get out and spontaneously meet and connect with each other. And who wants to stand around and talk to your neighbors or your friends on a street that looks like this with the cars whizzing by you? It's not very appealing. This is my backyard. All the houses in my neighborhood have these nice big green backyards with lots of trees, which seems healthy, right? But these yards require a lot of fossil fuels to mow. People use a lot of chemicals to maintain them. When it rains, they create stormwater runoff problems, and they carry toxins into the waterways. And thanks to these beautiful cement factories that are just a few miles away from my house, the air quality in my nice green suburb is really not that great either. And my whole region rates poorly for ozone levels and particulate pollution. So at this point, you might be asking, well, why do you live there? Why don't you move to a city, for instance? Obviously, you would have a much better and healthier lifestyle there. But that may not be the case. So Ophelia grew up in Hong Kong, and she is going to give you a taste of city life there, also using her wellness lens.
Yeah. So this is how people live in Hong Kong, all stacked in high-rises, whether you're in government-subsidized public housing or these luxury apartments in the mid-levels. With this kind of density, it is really difficult to find recreational space or green space. And my sister here and I were growing up very, very lucky because my family has memberships to the jockey club, the cricket club, and the neighborhood tennis club. But most people in Hong Kong are not so lucky. Actually, with all the urban lifestyle and walking, 50% of people in Hong Kong are sedentary, meaning they do not have the daily physical activities required to maintain good health. And if you think we would be more sociable compared to Katherine, living so close to our neighbor, the exact opposite is true. Growing up in an apartment with only one neighbor on our floor, we don't know who they are, not even their last names. In fact, people seem to go out of the way to avoid eye contact in the elevators. And it is as if when you're assaulted by crowds and traffic and noise daily, you just want to retreat to the sanctuary of your own home. And who can blame them? Living in an urban heat island can be very oppressive, especially in the summer. The air quality in Hong Kong has declined significantly in the last 20 years, and asthma is on the rise, affecting 10% of children and 5% of adults. Hong Kong now actually has the dubious distinction of being a first world city with third world air quality. So you would think maybe you're much safer indoors, but I'm not so sure. A lot of you have heard of the sick building syndrome. With all the microbes, contaminants, and toxic substances that are released from our building materials and cleaning agents that are trapped inside, very often our indoor environment is even worse than outside. Still, we are talking about Hong Kong, which is a prosperous city. So let's not forget, 25% of people who live in urban areas actually live in slums, and 1 billion people do not have basic sanitation where they live. But we're not here to get you all depressed today. We're here because we're at crossroads. We're really at the beginning of a movement to change this. And this is why we're talking about wellness real estate and wellness community. All this on wellness that Katherine and I talked about in the places that we live, the sedentary life, the pollution, and the social isolation, these environmental and lifestyle factors are responsible for 85% of our health outcomes, when our genetics only account for 15% of it. So we need to start thinking about where we live, our homes, as a strategic and deliberate investment in our health, instead of continue to build a built environment and homes that work against it. We love definitions, if you've seen our presentations before. So we have to start with talking about what are these things? Wellness, lifestyle, real estate, and wellness communities. Are they the same or are they different? So let's start with the easy one, the real estate part. Wellness, lifestyle, real estate are the homes and buildings proactively designed and built to support the holistic health of their residents. So far, so good, right? You probably have some kind of a mental image of what that looks like. Some villa around a lake, next to a preserved areas, built the bike paths, walking trails, some playgrounds, built a spa, fitness center, swimming pool, a clubhouse, and maybe it would be nice to have an organic farm next to it. This is all very fine real estate. But let me remind you, when we think about where we live, we never think about living in real estate, right? I mean, where we live is a home. It's a neighborhood and a community that we hope to belong. And a community is something intangible. It's like a feeling. But if you spend time in it, you always would know whether it is a strong community or weak community, whether it is real or fake. So what is a wellness community? Wellness community is focused on people. It's about people who live in close proximity, who share goals, interests, and an experience in pursuing wellness in a holistic way. Why are we focusing on the community part? Because it is a fundamental human need to connect to other people, to feel we belong, and to feel safe in our homes. It is even more important in this age of rising loneliness and social isolation. And when we think about wellness in the context of a community, imagine and think about how the people around us affect our behaviors, our daily actions, and our lifestyle day to day. If we live among people where a culture of wellness is the norm, it is much more likely that we're going to live a well life. So let's turn back to the real estate part. So let's be clear, real estate does not equal a community. But some magic happens when this real estate part creates a foundation that a community can emerge and even thrive. How do you make that magic happen? So after many months of studying and looking at communities, we think we discovered some secret sauce. So I'm just going to share a few ingredients with you. First is what we called going from a passive to active wellness. What we mean by that is that there are some homes that have made very smart use of technology, of design and materials that has improved the quality of the air, the light, the sound, and even maybe the tactile contact with nature in your own homes. And this is all very good for our wellness, but this is passive, taking in all this wellness. And wellness is really about action and about engagement. So what I'm talking about is not just having exercise facilities and go and do your workout, but there are many design elements, from porches to sidewalks, from parking to bus stops, and from gardens to public squares. They can be designed in a way that invite people, make it convenient, make it pleasant, and make it even preferred for them to do the things that are good for them on a daily basis. Like taking the stairs instead of the elevator, walking, taking public transportation, riding your bike instead of driving everywhere, or going outside or going somewhere to meet people face to face instead of looking at your Twitter feed or Facebook likes. So which brings me to the second ingredient, from hardware to software. Hardware is pretty obvious. It's the buildings, the infrastructure, the facilities, and the real estate part. But a community is about people. It's a living organism, like a plant requires nurturing and water. So we need soft infrastructure. And what I mean by that is the programming, the services, the activities, the events, things that actually draw people out and bring them together to create a community. We need good curating of the kind of activities and a kind of programs in order to create a culture and an experience of wellness. And also importantly, we need management and then policies, how to finance them, how to pay for these things and make them sustainable. But the most important ingredient of all is going from a me to we perspective. This we part is really the DNA of a wellness community. When we think about wellness, we can kind of just focus on our own lives, our exercise, our sleep, eat our healthy and organic food, and it's all good for our own health. But this me-centric approach is like a wellness cocoon. I mean, if you prefer to do that, that's fine. But if you want to be in a community, it's about connection. Not just there's social connectivity, but an awareness that our choices and what we do every day has an impact on other people and on our environment. And so how are we going to create a built environment and a life that we're hopefully not only net zero, but maybe a net positive to our social and physical environment?
So all these things that Ophelia has been talking about are not hypothetical, and these are not futuristic. These kinds of places are already being built all around the world. We predict that in the next several decades, building our homes and our neighborhoods for wellness will become the default approach and not just a trend. And so I'm now going to give you 4 reasons why that's going to happen and why everyone here needs to be looking at this market. And the first reason is that consumers are already demanding these kinds of homes. We are spending billions and billions of dollars on things like spin classes, yoga classes, meditation apps, sleep apps, Fitbits, vitamins, juicing, organic foods, running shoes. That list goes on and on and on. But increasingly, we're recognizing that we need our homes and our neighborhoods to support us in those wellness efforts. And a recent survey of American households with incomes over $75,000 a year found that 25% of those households are already very interested in living in a wellness community. And so that translates into 1.3 million buyers, potentially, for wellness real estate in the United States alone every single year. And as you can see, this is not just a US phenomenon. There are surveys, these and others, all around the world that are showing the growing demand for this kind of real estate. Second reason, consumers are so interested in wellness lifestyle real estate that they are willing to pay a premium to live in these kinds of homes. There are, of course, many wellness real estate projects that are positioned as affordable housing and as market rate housing, and that's very important. But for those projects, and there are many of them that are positioned at the middle and upper ends of the market, we estimate that people are willing to pay 10 to 25%, and sometimes even more, to live in homes that improve their health. Third reason, there is so much room for growth and experimentation in this market. As many of you may remember, last year we estimated that the wellness lifestyle real estate market is a $119 billion industry around the world already. It's been growing by 9% every year. This is a big industry, but this is still only half the size of the green building industry, and it's only about 2% of the construction that takes place around the world every year. There is a huge pipeline of projects in wellness real estate sector in development all around the world right now. And all these dots you see on the map here represent projects that are already built, partially built, and in development right now. This pipeline that you see here is not enough to even meet the current demand for these kinds of homes. And so that's why consumers are paying a premium to purchase these kinds of properties. The great thing is that there is no one right way to do wellness lifestyle real estate. Every single one of these projects that you see here on the screen is unique. They range from suburban villages to urban high-rises. They're targeting seniors and millennials, families, and everyone in between. Some cost millions of dollars, and some target people with lower incomes. Everyone wants and needs different things when it comes to their wellness and their homes, and so there are many different themes and concepts that people are working on, as you can see here. Some are providing healthy and restful indoor environments for people who live in those crowded and polluted megacities like Hong Kong. Some projects give people constant access to world-class spa and wellness facilities. Some are targeting people who want to live close to nature, be active outdoors, and connect with where their food's grown. There are projects that are targeting multi-generational living, senior living, and building social connections. We don't have time on this stage. It would take all day to tell you about all of these exciting and many other projects that are out there right now. This presentation is really just to introduce some highlights of what will be in our full report, the research report, which is going to be released in January 2018 at a press event in New York City. And that report is going to be crammed full of in-depth information about this market with guidance, data, case studies, and all kinds of information to help you understand this further. But let's jump back to that fourth and final reason why we all need to be looking at this market. And that's because we don't have a choice in this matter. We cannot fix our global health crisis and its rising costs if we do not turn our attention to the places where we live. And there is already a growing body of evidence that is demonstrating that building better places to live has a direct impact on our health outcomes. We all know here that we're spending $3.7 trillion on wellness, but at the same time, we are spending over $8 trillion on housing that in many ways encourages unhealthy lifestyle and behaviors, as we talked about at the beginning. Then we turn around and we spend $7.6 trillion on our health to fix all of those problems that we created. This math doesn't add up. We need to do a better job, put all of these expenditures together and have them work toward the same goal so that we can have tremendous business opportunities, reduce health costs, and have much happier, healthier lives. Everyone here can help make a difference in building these healthier places to live. Thank you.